Did they? I heard they changed the CNN thing. They put it back. They changed the picture. Christine said.
Oh, did they? I haven't checked.
On the article, they changed the whole thing up because someone had to eventually get back and say it's ridiculous.
Good
for CNN's post. What is it like?
CNN had a article about like people that were canceled in 2019, and the graphic they used for it was R. Kelly, me, and Michael Jackson. Like, what the fuck, dude?
I texted Shane. I go, "What the fuck? What you did was so much worse."
Yeah, but I mean, R. Kelly and Michael. First of all, the article is about canceling, right? People who got. Here's the thing about people who got canceled this year. Like Michael Jackson, he's dead. He didn't get canceled. He died
R. Kelly's
years ago.
a monster.
He died years ago.
It's just like, all right, CNN, so an off-color joke's the same to you as kid touching?
I can't stress enough. The comedians are allowed to say whatever the they want, and the people shouldn't have their lives ruined over a few jokes. But I also can't stress enough that this isn't what's happening. It's just some consequences. You can't say racist shit and also be on SNL, the year they finally hired an Asian person. Not a controversial statement. Being an entertainer is literally about knowing this. It's about knowing how words work, and that while no word should be censored, the context of using those words super matter.
Nothing is off limits for comedy.
But also your job as a comedian is to like think about the climate you're in.
And if you're making a joke and you're gonna punch someone, it should be punching up. You should be attacking people who are like getting away with stuff, who are very powerful and influential, that like have it coming.
That's a lot of weight and a lot of pressure to put on comedy, to be able to shift the power dynamics. But comedy could at least shine a light on it and open up people's minds.
I think good comedy criticizes our society a lot and criticizes things that we're uncomfortable with and talks about them.
You know, intentions matter. I think, you know, somebody saying a joke to try and illustrate, you know, a point or, you know, highlight an injustice or do something is one thing.
You get to say whatever you want. We all get to, right?
Absolutely.
But the second it comes out of our mouths, it's no longer in our control about how it's supposed to be interpreted. People can hate it, they can do whatever you want. And that's the bottom line, is that we all have to deal with the shit that comes to us from saying what we say.
Right. We need to know that what we put out into the world affects people. And we need to understand that we have to deal with whatever consequences come from that.
People hide behind this bullshit. And again, I understand, you know, I'm not really a political guy, and I understand where the left comes from about, you know, why there are problems with Trump. But they're making fools of themselves.
Yeah, they can't do it.
They really
just
are.
fuck up at every turn.
This impeachment thing is
really
like, that's what they get them on? That's the...
There was there's such an insulated group of people that are like telling themselves like, no, we need to change culture by policing comedians,
right?
And they pat each other on the backs and they're like, yes, this is the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
So I don't think he was that malicious. I think he genuinely believes what he's doing is for the good.
We've talked on the show about how, like in our current political moment here in America, like, you know, broadly speaking, liberals and the left have gotten just sort of double down on culture and entertainment as the realm in which you can exert power, because politics has failed totally. Right?
But I think they're going to double down on the fucking, because they can't get him and they can't get anybody real, so they get people like comics.
Right.
Who are easy. It's like, dude, if you want to get racist, get racist.
Yeah.
Don't get a fucking guy talking.
No, of course,
on
man.
a podcast. It's like, dude,
I mean, that's
wild.
not, you're not changing the world.
No.
You're actually making it
You're
worse.
making it worse. You're making
it worse.
Divide,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. We ain't winning shit. I got to a point where like my act was making my entire life miserable. I used to have some type of social relevance in my act. And I guess like 10 years ago, I thought, wow, yeah, you know, I'm gonna change the world. I'm gonna talk about in 20 years of comedy, I've probably had a dozen good points that I reflect on and go, that was actually a really fucking good piece. And it had a point that made sense. But the whole changing the world thing never really kicked in. The revolution I was starting, where I thought I could yell at 200 people in a bar every night and change the world, it didn't quite happen like Egypt and Syria. Yeah, the problem is still there. And someone will say, oh, abortion's back in the news. And you go, why? I already solved that on a 2004 release. How could it possibly still exist? I've yelled at thousands of drunk people about that.
The power of comics, and a lot of us buy into our own bullshit of like what we can do. And I think the reality is we're not that important, like at all.
Not at all.
We're not at all really important, like at all.
Luckily, we can edit this. One of my first memories is of Martin Luther King being shot. I was 5. And if you wonder if this feeling will pass, when I was 5 and he was shot, here's what I remember about it. I was in a school in Trenton, and they shut the lights off, and we got to sit under our desks. And we thought that was really cool. And they gave us cottage cheese, which was a cold lunch because there was rioting. But we didn't know that. We just thought, my God, we get to sit under our desks and eat cottage cheese. And that's what I remember about it. And that was a tremendous test of this country's fabric, and this country's had many tests before that and after that. And the reason I don't despair is because this attack happened. It's not a dream. But the aftermath of it, the recovery, is a dream realized. And that is Martin Luther King's dream. You know, all this talk about these guys are criminal masterminds. They've gotten together and their extraordinary guile and their wit and their skill. It's a lie. Any fool can blow something up. Any fool can destroy. But to see these guys, these firefighters, these policemen, and people from all over the country, literally with buckets, rebuilding, that's extraordinary. And that's why we've already won. They can't, it's light. It's democracy. We've already won. They can't shut that down.
What an incredible metaphor this room is for the entire process that getting health care and benefits for 9/11 first responders has come to. Behind me, a filled room of 9/11 first responders, and in front of me, a nearly empty Congress. Sick and dying, they brought themselves down here to speak to no one. It's shameful. It's an embarrassment to the country, and it is a stain on this institution. And you should be ashamed of yourselves for those that aren't here, but you won't be. Because accountability doesn't appear to be something that occurs in this chamber. And I'm sorry if I sound angry and undiplomatic, but I'm angry. And you should be too, and they're all angry as well. And they have every justification to be that way. There is not a person here, there is not an empty chair on that stage that didn't tweet out, "Never forget the heroes of 9/11. Never forget their bravery. Never forget what they did, what they gave to this country." Well, here they are. And where are they? And it would be one thing if their callous indifference and rank hypocrisy were benign, but it's not. Your indifference cost these men and women their most valuable commodity, time. This should be flipped. This hearing should be flipped. These men and women should be up on that stage, and Congress should be down here answering their questions as to why this is so damn hard and takes so damn long. And why, no matter what they get, something's always pulled back, and they got to come back. He said, look, you know, you guys are obviously heroes, and 9/11 was a big deal, but, you know, we have a lot of stuff here to do. And, you know, we got to make sure there's money for a variety of disasters, hurricanes and tornadoes, but this wasn't a hurricane. And this wasn't a tornado. And by the way, that's your job anyway. We can't fund these programs, you can. Setting aside that no American in this country should face financial ruin because of a health issue. Certainly 9/11 first responders shouldn't have to decide whether to live or to have a place to live. And I am awfully tired of hearing that it's a 9/11 New York issue. Al-Qaeda didn't shout death to Tribeca. They attacked America, and these men and women, and their response to it is what brought our country back. It's what gave a reeling nation a solid foundation to stand back upon, to remind us of why this country is great, of why this country is worth fighting for. And you are ignoring them.